So good day. It's the week of Tisha B'Av. So we're getting ready for Mashiach's birth on Tisha B'Av. And we'll do that also by finishing the Maimer. We're learning Minu Melech, the appointment of a king. We're on page 220 in the Derech Mitzvosecha Sefer Mitzvahs of the Tzemach Tzedek. In this last chapter, the Tzemach Tzedek, the author of the third Lubavitcher Chabad Rebbe, asks a question: why is necessary for Mashiach, for the Jewish Messiah, the ultimate Redeemer of the Jewish people and the world at large? Why is he known as King Messiah, King Mashiach, Melech HaMoshiach? If everyone will be learned at the time, as it says in the prophets, one man won't have to teach the other one because they'll be knowledgeable of all of the Torah. So what do you need a teacher for? So a teacher maybe, but a king too, and it's not just about knowledge, it's about follow through, mitzvahs, behavior. So if everyone's doing everything right, do you need to have lights and laws? Laws and lights, are to protect us when we make mistakes or intentionally speed or park illegally, whatever the case. Or people don't behave and want to hurt other people, rip them off and all that. But if everyone's doing everything properly, which we're told in Jewish writings, that's the case. That's the period of Mashiach, which is hard to relate to, but be that as it may, that's what the Chazal say. So if we accept that, and we believe it, and we do, so what do you need a king for? So that's the question in chapter 3 on page 220.
Sorry, what did you say? What do we need a what for, Rav?
A king Mashiach, Melech HaMoshiach.
Oh, okay.
Right? We're talking about the whole idea of Melech. So now in chapter 3, the Tzemach Tzedek concludes the Maimer by pointing out to us that he explained the virtue of David over King Shaul. That was towards the end of the last chapter. So now he gets to the crux, the epitome, which is the Mashiach. The Rambam's paskins, the Rambam writes, the first and foremost thing about Mashiach is that he's a Melech HaMoshiach. So the Tzemach Tzedek's question in the beginning of this chapter 3 is, why is it necessary to have a Melech HaMoshiach if everyone's doing everything properly? That's his question. I want to continue now from 5 lines down from the beginning of chapter Gimel, Acho Inyan. Acho Inyan, the Be'emer Shayach Pinis Melucha Gamal Tabid Chachamim. The concept of kingship, of being a king, it does apply even over scholars, Talmid Chachamim. Hagam Shemaskilim B'Teiras Hashem, although they kind of intellectualize, they study Torah, and they don't have to be, they don't need the subservience of a slave, of a slave to a master, because they are inherently on that level, because they are Talmid Chachamim. As we explained in chapter 1, the 2 reasons for needing a king. So the Rebbe says both reasons don't seem to apply. The first reason doesn't apply because they're not like a slave. They are obedient. They do want to do what God wants. Here is his answer, Menashe, that the kingship of King Mashiach will be on a higher level, and a level in which even Talmid Chachamim scholars need it. And he explains, Torah is infinite. We go from strength to strength, Adam Fanayim. There's no limits. It's infinite. There's infinite amount of levels. Higher and higher when it comes to comprehending Torah. And when Mashiach comes in the future, there'll be there'll be revelation of godliness by comprehending the inner secrets, the inner meaning of Torah, known as Pnimiyut HaTorah. Pnimiyus HaTorah. Day Mashiach, Mr. Mashiach, Melech HaMashiach, the King Mashiach, he will, Shehu Yilmid, he will teach the Jewish people, Pnimius HaTorah L'chol to the entire nation, Gam Mashahoya Be'ez Behelim, even what's now concealed. Mashiach will open up the secrets and the inner dimension of Torah and teach it to the masses. Still, in all, he himself recognizes even more as much as Mashiach will teach the nation the inner dimension of Torah, there still will be more that he himself knows or recognizes that he isn't revealing to the nation. Because they cannot comprehend certain ideas that are so esoteric. And it's because of this level within Mashiach that we call him Nikra Melech, we call Mashiach a king. And he explains, just as kingship here below, it's just the idea of subservience to a king. You're subservient to what's above your mind, your comprehension, something that resonates well logically. You don't need to have the king to make the commandment. Even without the commandment, it makes sense. And it's good, in his eyes. The command is something that is contrary to the rationale, and it's wondrous for him, meaning it's beyond his comprehension and seems very perplexing and very contradictory and makes no sense. And nevertheless, because of the command and the decree, the king says, do so and so, even though it doesn't make sense to me. He's forced to do it, and he annuls his will to the will of the king. We actually learned all this. He doesn't know the heart of the king, and the king's secretive time HaKomas, I told you in last year, is a reference used in Kabbalah and Zohar and etc., referring to esoteric secrets that are beyond the average norm. This is the level of nullification to what's above his own chokhmah. Although the person, it doesn't resonate with the person, he listens to the decree of the king, which by the king, the commandment is proper, and it has a good reasoning, but it's esoteric, and therefore he doesn't share it with the nation. So using this as an analogy, now comes the moral. Well, Derech so too regarding Torah, there are certain mitzvahs that are statutes, and certain ones are comprehensible. For example, the mitzvah of tzitzis and tefillin. Those are comprehensible. Yet, there are mitzvahs which are called statutes, and they don't make any sense logically. Hey, to a parah aduma, the red heifer, the shatnez, and not mixing wool and linen together. Shetzemero pishtim, you're forbidden to, wool and linen, you're forbidden to mix. Kol chad l'chudei shari. Each one on its own is permissible. But if you mix them together, the Torah says it's called shatnez. You're not allowed to wear such a garment or sit on such a garment. It doesn't make any sense. If 1 and 1 are both good, so why isn't 1 and 1 2? It should be 1 and 1 2. So if I have cotton, and cotton itself is kosher, and I have linen, and linen itself is kosher, so when I mix together cotton and linen, it should be definitely kosher. And the Torah says, no, it's not. It doesn't make any sense. If you take each one with each one on its own, with silk, it's kosher. You're allowed to milk, you're allowed to mix silk and each one. The Torah says, cotton and linen, Yachtov, those two items together, lois tilbash, do not wear. You're forbidden to wear such a garment. So vehine. Taimi atoiro, excuse me. Taimi atoiro yizgalu, the reasons for these chukim, these statutes, will only be revealed when Mashiach comes, Idea Mashiach, through Mashiach. Mashiach, the Melech HaMashiach, will say, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to explain to you now the logic of the red heifer and the logic of Shatnis, etc. Okay, what?
Wool, I thought it's wool in linen when I.
Yeah. Sorry, wool. I got mixed up. Right. Thank you for the correction. I'm glad. Whenever a student corrects me, I'm very happy. It shows you're listening. Okay. Thank you, Menashe. Loi ba'atzmoi yizgale harbe yosef. What about to Melech HaMashiach? What will be the revelation to him? Since you're saying that he knows the Tam Komus, the hidden esoteric reason, so he says, he himself will have a lot greater revelation. That won't be able to be revealed to the nation, even at the time of Mashiach. Melech HaMashiach will have a much deeper understanding of the mitzvah of chukim, but that level of knowledge he won't be able to reveal. As it says regarding Mashiach, in the Yaskil Avdi, my servant will comprehend, Yorum, exalted, Venisa, and uplifted, V'govam Yoid, and very high. In other words, it's three terms, exalted, lifted, and very high, referring to a level of knowledge that's beyond the average man during the time of Mashiach. We're not talking about now, while we're in exile, in Golus. Talking about Bizman Shel Mashiach. So Yeshaya Navi, the prophet, says this in the verse, implying that even there's something that won't be comprehensible to the average person, even at the time of Mashiach. V'heim, hey aliyos, v'heim, hey aliyos. These are the elevations. These are the five. What does it say? You have an English one?
5 levels of elevation.
5 levels of elevation. Okay. I didn't come across this before, as far as I remember. Something called 5 levels of elevations, higher esoteric levels, rungs of understanding. Yaskil me Avram. He'll comprehend from Avram. Oh, sorry. The Tzemach Tzedek now, remember, what was the question? The question was regarding David HaMelech, why he needed to have, in addition to Adam giving him 70 years, 5 years from Avram, 28 years from Yaakov, and 47 years from Yosef. So now the Tzemach Tzedek is explaining them regarding Mashiach. Those are the 5 elevations from Avram. The words gava mioid, is Adam. You take the word mioid, mem aleph daled, and you reverse it, you get Adam. You don't reverse it backwards to forwards, but you take the aleph from the middle, and then you take the daled and the mem. Shigia lemaila, which will be greater gami Adam Arishin than Adam Arishin. This is why we say that Mashiach will even be greater than Adam, than Adam Arishin. Because Adam Arishin is Chochmila, supernal wisdom, killing Mashiach. And why will Mashiach be greater? Because Mashiach is Gala Yosef. Why is that? Why, Mark, why will God reveal to Mashiach even greater revelations than to first man, Adam? Adam Arishin was the general soul for all souls. And the answer is, because he was a general soul for all souls as they are pre-Mashiach. So he gave them top level wisdom, Chochmilah, but just in the realm of pre-Mashiach. He didn't deal, or it didn't have, it seems like, that level of experience and godly experience, revelation that Mashiach will have, because Mashiach is reserved, his teaching, his leadership, Melech HaMashiach, is specifically for the time of Mashiach. Oh, for that you need to have something even greater than Adam Arishan. Back into the text. Yeh Mashiach gam kein Melech al Yisrael.
Just before you go on, there's a helpful note here. Meod also serves as an acronym for the names Mashiach, Adam, and David.
Yes.
Thus, the 5 levels that Tzemach Tzedek mentions are identified with Adam, Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and David.
So we got again Abraham, Yitzchak, but how does Yitzchak come in?
The 5 are Adam, Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and David. It's bringing together the two ideas. I think that the life of David came from Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and
but Hillel, it did not come from Yitzchak. We learned it earlier. It specifically excluded Yitzchak because Yitzchak is Gvura. David didn't have to have more Gvura in his life. So how does he say Yitzchak over here?
But maybe Mashiach then.
Okay, but I hear. But you're saying the notes. I understand. You're explaining the 5, but I'm questioning the second of the 5, the third of the 5, Yitzchak. But whatever. Okay, it has to be looked in. I mean, this is whose interpretation over there? Elliot Talger? Who gave
This is from Chabad.org.
Chabad.org.
From the website.
Well, that doesn't yet tell me that they're right. I have to check that out. But I hear. Okay, let's go back to the text. Therefore, Mashiach won't only be a teacher, he'll be King Mashiach. Although we will all be at a level, like scholars, like Talmidei Chachamim, to the point that the inner reasons for Torah will be revealed to all of the Jews. That's the accomplishment of the time of Mashiach. Nevertheless, Mashiach is Galilehem. He repeats the point. Not everything that will be revealed to Mashiach himself will be revealed to the people. Ella, that level of what Mashiach knows, deep secrets, that level are going to hover over the people. That's why he's called the king over them. Kingship, melech, means I'm instructing you something that's not, that you aren't able to understand on your own, and you have to be subservient and listen and follow. If Mashiach is all about, I understand that, so what do you need Mashiach for? So you say what? That Mashiach is about teaching the inner, okay? But once we're going to experience the inner aspect of Torah, why do we still need a King Mashiach? But Tzemach Tzedek says, because there are certain things that the Mashiach, that you don't know, and only Mashiach knows, and when he makes a commandment, even then, you need to follow. So he's called Melech HaMashiach, not for that aspect of Torah that we can figure out ourselves, or that we come to know the secrets, but it's because of that aspect of Mashiach that's beyond our comprehension, and it's beyond revealing it to us, and from there he makes a commandment, Mashiach, and we follow. So the bottom line is that kingship, right? Well, what do we understand from this? The whole idea of being a king is to be subservient beyond greater transcending our mind. If you can understand something and figure it out, you don't need a king. You need a teacher, a good teacher. But then there's certain things, and by the way, the mitzvahs of chukim. So, but Pashtus, it says that the chukim, the statutes, that we'll see the reasoning of the statutes. When Mashiach comes, Mashiach will reveal to us the inner dimension of my question still is whether there's a level of chukim that even then won't be revealed. I don't know that. Weiter. Pia Kabbalahu. Now the Tzemach Tzedek explains this concept in Kabbalistic terms. Kach. It's like this. Ki anivroim de bia, the creatures of Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya, of the lower worlds, yesh aleim melech tato, they have a lower king upon them, Malchus d'Atzilus, it's called Malchus, the 10th emanation of the world of Atzilus, shenasa atik lebria, that becomes kind of a crown for the next world, the world of creation. Vahainu prinas atik, this means that the level of atik, hu mashilamayle maseichel, it's above logic, it transcends logic, miloshim, it's associated with the word hamatik horim, someone who removes mountains. Shenetak v'nivdal, meaning in this case, they've been removed and separated min hasagas hanivroyim, from the comprehension of creatures. Shebegibul olam is biyad, that are in the three worlds. In other words, it's a different category. Netak, atik, hillel. It's completely removed. It's a gradual removement. I don't understand it today, but tomorrow I'll understand it. No way. You're talking about a different league, a different category. That's atik. What do we say? We say the malchus of the higher world of Atzilus becomes netak lebria, meaning, I explained it before, it becomes a crown. That's not the pshat. It's the wrong pshat here. It means it's removed from bria. Atik lebria, he's teaching here. What I said is explained elsewhere. But here he seems like he's interpreting in just the opposite. The level of Malchus d'Atzilus is netak, is removed from bria Yitzir and Azira. It's only like a crown, like it hovers over his head. It's hovering over us, that knowledge. Analogous to the decree of a king, over a servant, that the servant doesn't get it and doesn't want it and doesn't agree and doesn't want to listen, and yet he puts aside himself and he listens to the master. Because this information transcends comprehension and his comprehension, and therefore he knows that it hovers over him. Hovering over him is analogous to subjugating yourself to the wishes of the king. And we call this Malchus of the level of Atzilus Isser, you're following, over Bria Yisir Asiyah. Avol, now he says, however, what about not the creatures of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah, of world of creation, formation, and action, but what about the souls, the neshamas in Atzilus? Says the Tzemach Tzedek, they're called Achim, brothers, Lizov and Nukva, to Malchus, to the Midos and to Malchus. Ein zeh b'chinas makiv v'helem klal. To them, it's not encompassing and concealed. Shari nikroim achim mamish. They're called literally brothers. Lahasfiras canal, to the emanations. So far, the Tzemach Tzedek says that this scenario of the Oyer of Atzilus being a crown hovering over the Bria Tzirasiyah is just to the Bria Tzirasiyah, but not to the souls in Atzilus. Mikol Mokaim Haru Gam Aleim Yesh Prinas Makiv. Says the Tzemach Tzedek, sorry, chap, there's also an aspect to the light, to the energy that exists in Atzilus over the souls that's also encompassing Makif. What is that? Masha Malchus the Adam Kadmin. This is the level of primordial man, Malchus of primordial man, Nasa Atik Latzilus, that becomes an Atik for Atzilus. Petersh, Atik Datzilus, what does it mean, Atik of Datzilus? We say this in davening, Hashem is exalted over the days of the world. Heim Yoimin Eloyin, these are supernal days. Shem Midas Datzilus, referring to the Midos, every day is another Midah, Chesed, Gvura, Tesach, Sunday, Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, etc. 7 Midos of Atzilus. v'netak v'nivdol mehem. So the atik of Atzilus is removed from them. V'hagbe me'oid nailam asagosem, and very uplifted, very above them from the comprehension, which is Hupkinis Malchus Da'ak, which would be the level of Malchus of primordial men, al Atzilus and Atzilus. So what he introduces here is a concept in Kabbalah. Did you ever learn about this concept of Adam Kadmon, primordial man? Now, what is Adam Kadmon? So one statement in the Zohar and Kisraelis and Chassidus is that God like pierced and from the perspective of Adam Kadmon and said, I want a world. So it's pre-world, Adam Kadmon. It's the primordial man, the primordial state of being, right? Or some explain it primordial man, before Adam Arisha, okay? So here he says that from that perspective, even Atzilus has an atik on it. Until now, we learned that the atik, the encompassing and hovering, the incomprehensible, is associated with the Atzilus compared to Bria Tzia. Now he's going to step up, and is really, if you look at the relationship between the emanations of Atzilus, I hope you guys are listening because this is deep stuff. That the emanations of Atzilus compared to higher, they're also removed. Compared to what? Compared to Adam Kadmon, to primordial man. Because even the light and energy of Atzilus, although it's not Bria, it's not creation yet, it's pre-creation, but creation already has a place. And Adam Kadmon is even more removed, less place, less room for creation and also for comprehensibility of creation. So from that perspective, he says there's a atik to Atzilus. From the perspective of higher Adam Kadmon, Atzilus, there's an atik l'Atzilus. Next page, Kuf Yud Aleph, top of the page. Shom Yeh Sheidish HaMashiach. Oh. Where is the source of Mashiach? Not in Atzilus, but in Adam Kadmon, and primordial man. V'zeu v'goiva mi'oid, mem aleph dalet. Shenem raboy, that says regarding Mashiach, all of them, and it's regarding Mashiach, it says, Chayim shol mimcho nosat Eloi. Chayim shol mimcho, life about Mimcha v'Nasat Eloi. V'loi k'may b'David. Sorry. Mashiach doesn't need the years that David needed. Shehoyim Malchus Datzilus, because David was from Malchus Datzilus. Shekibul Chayim Adam Arishan, as we said earlier in the Maimer, he received life from first man Adam, and the patriarchs. So Shehem Hasfiras Datzilus Canal Pedig Beis, these are referring to the 10 emanations of Atzilus. Mashen came conversely, Mashiach Nasata Ata Ha'Ein Sof Ba'atzmai. Mashiach was given the infinite himself, God himself. That's why he will also be a king over the Jews. Hagam She'yeh B'Talmid Chacham. Although he will be a scholar, and although he will reveal the meaning behind mitzvahs, but he repeats his point, but he won't reveal everything that's been revealed to him. Therefore, Mashiach is called a teacher, a rab, a rabbi, umelech, and a king. The aspect of Mashiach, that he will teach us the reasons for the mitzvahs that we don't understand now or know. For that's why we will call him Rabbi Mashiach, Rav Mashiach, teacher. But that part that still hovers over us and we still don't understand, even during the time of Mashiach, we will call him with the term Melech HaMashiach, King Mashiach. Because just like a king you're subservient to him, there'll be an aspect of knowledge that won't be revealed and will be subservient to Mashiach. דרך זה יובן גם כן העדין מלכוס דאין סוף, דקסר לאק חולו והמאבין יובן. And this is also explain the concept, a Kabbalistic concept of Malchus, of the infinite Keser, La'ak to Adam Kadmon, which is even higher. I'm not going to go into it. V'hamevin Yuvin, and the expert, the knowledgeable one who has knowledge in Kabbalah will understand. We're going to have a shiur tomorrow, actually a Farbrengen, a pre-Mashiach Farbrengen, because Mashiach is born on Tisha B'Av, so we need a Farbrengen about it. Have a great day, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.